Alright, hello everyone. For those of you who may have watched this live stream, I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously I'm recording this before that, so I do not know how things are gonna go. I hope there are no technical difficulties when I do this. But yeah, so I'm gonna just do a recording of the actual time lapse here. I am gonna point some stuff out as I go along. Some things that I did early on that don't actually really make sense, but we can just kind of ignore for the most part for this. Yeah, so, and also this is going to show all the cratons present, so you see why I won't like fully bring two continents together when they come to, because all the thing to note about the cratons is they should not be involved in the actual geological activity, so there shouldn't be like, you should never have really cratons getting split in half. You shouldn't have cratons getting smashed into other continents getting turned into mountain ranges. They're basically really flat areas, so if I would have, so any time I had a situation where I could have had that happen, I just had the continent stop moving, even if it was all in like in an interior ocean or whatever. So you do see that at least happening one time where there's just a full-on inner ocean. The other one kind of had an inner ocean, but it was also one where I didn't verify how long I should have a supercontinent sit around for. But I'm going to do it like this first, then we're going to go back and actually do it without this so you can kind of see what it looks like with just sort of the land itself. So, yeah. One thing I am going to mention is that I do plan on coming back and kind of doing more detailed coastline for the initial continent, and as we, of course, as the continents move along in the timeline. So that could take a while for me to do as again, but I want to have that just so we get a bit more of an intricate look to it, because honestly this just looks like a big blob when it starts out. The later result, assuming you have already seen it from the live stream itself, obviously it looks way more natural, more chaotic. But I want to kind of have that look already from the get-go to a degree. So that is something I am hoping to do. Well, not hoping, it is something I am going to end up doing as well for the whole planet eventually. You can actually see we're about to have a collision here. Obviously, one thing I will note, I did the best I could, so there's a few things that don't fully work, but also to make the more kind of look a bit more natural because of how consistent these coastlines were. I didn't want to have that happen, so I riffed the supercontinent in a lot of different ways. Okay, we're gonna have to, so yeah, pause here. So this, actually maybe it's not there. Where is it? Yeah, we eventually, yeah, I think let's go a little bit more. Okay. So you can see the supercontinent formed and I ripped it immediately because I was unaware. My explanation for this could really be that either the subduction zones here are just very close to the continents, and I just kind of forgot to do that yada yada forgetful act thing, however you want to do it. Or it could be that this piece of the continent, because it still had all this, it was still getting moved to a degree by that, and it hadn't fully gotten stuck here, but the rift ended up here instead, which if I did it more accurately would have been like that, really. So yeah, so that is another thing I could have done better there. And that's kind of what happens here. So we could just say there is an additional time. So this could be like, everything before it could be maybe an additional like 150 or 200 million years added on top of what those timestamps are. We could just say that this is an really odd case where the continent just immediately gets rifted just by some odd geological activities. But that'll probably be something I decided more likely when I do the orogeny sort. I'll probably just do at least an orogeny along here, probably here as well, just to make it so that kind of indicate there is some time that went by, but just no island making. Maybe it was just, maybe the continent, like the ocean plates, are just moving at a much abnormally slower rate, perhaps. So no islands would get formed during all this. Alright, so I'm going to just continue on now as well. Yeah, and you actually see this in the other ones. You don't see it here, but especially when it's on this outer edge, and also the final one when it's really, really kind of long. I actually just split the continents technically into a few pieces to get it to actually render in with the continental land raster. Also, in the future, I actually just get rid of the oceans. Here, I just stopped moving them, but I get rid of them later on because it was annoying to have to go and constantly draw in the new lines where they'd be getting subducted and removing them as I went. So, yeah, they just kind of annoyed me after a while. Yeah, we're going to just get back to this. So you can see very quickly there's a connection there, which creates our first really small inner ocean. I think I called it like a inner ocean one or whatever with its name in it. Yeah. Another thing that happened is that I had multiple island arcs that formed in places that were no longer subducting ocean plates eventually, and because of just how I did things, they didn't always end up getting accreted onto trains like this piece here. Maybe I've already had it done do it. Maybe it comes in later, but I added in something that wasn't in the tutorial I was following, which was basically I made eroded island arcs, which are the way I see it is it's an island arc that has eroded below the water level, but and if I had those subduct, well not subduct, accrete onto, you can see right there, like I couldn't move it past there because of how close, and you can see the boundary I had to make there, so the content would actually render. Interesting enough, well, actually that's not, I had to do that because I couldn't fit the inner ocean area within it and like make it look nice, so I did that to actually get this area without having to do a full ocean plate, well, ocean crust, I guess. Yeah, you can also see it with these, but I use these eroded island arcs to actually allow very small amounts of accretion to happen with them, but not a whole lot. And just so it's kind of clear, hey, they haven't had uh, any ocean plates subducting under them to form them or continue to make them grow, so they just eventually I did it at the same rate as when they formed, so that's kind of how I determined when to erode them, which as they could go faster, they go slower. There's no clear, like, you can see I actually had that one accrete there a little bit. And once again, you can see that it got kind of far. I did a whole time step when I did that, but you see kind of all that's going to obviously be sort of accreted and smushed together, so there'll be an homogeneity along there. So to keep that craton safe. Now, guys, I actually had a really fun time doing this part for whatever reason. This was also one of the more recent things, so I started having fun. Like that was a different thing. You can see that collision there, and then we get this one, which just creates. Actually, I had an inner ocean form there. Yeah, because also should be noted, the island arc that was here would likely have already formed a decent amount of land, so that's why this inner ocean kind of would have formed. Obviously, that could have happened way sooner. You can actually remove all the ocean plates, but also since a lot of these island arcs are on like a similar ocean section, trying to move that and get the island arcs to work right was a little iffy. You might have seen that in the previous one, I think. Yeah, you probably should have seen it with the previous one where like some things got a little weird as they moved around for the islands because they're all on one plate. So I just kind of divide them up into their own separate plates, starting around, especially here, so I get them to move in a specific direction to get them to more reasonably accrete. And then now a little subduction zone around here, probably like the Pacific version, this planet's version of the Pacific Ring of Fire. And also, yeah, there's a lot of, I made a lot of small islands for some reason in this. It was a pain dealing with these later on. I had to split them up and all that. You can actually see what, they all have their different colors already, but these are like a lot. One of these was like super long when I made it. I don't remember which one it was or which ones were part of it, but it was so long. It's a pain to break up into smaller pieces. At 500, I ripped this continent into two, and I actually don't do any, I did try an additional rift with it, but I didn't end up liking it, and it was causing some issues, so I just didn't do that in the end. Yeah, so this is, I should also say, at about the 500 mark, which is I'm going to go back to that, just so we get an idea of what's going on with the life at this point. So up to about this point, life has remained in the ocean. So it's been all marine life, probably a lot along in coastline areas, which now do it. Some of this, like some of the edge around here, may also be coastlines as well, or like shallow areas. Maybe some of the ocean crust areas might be shallow. But like a little bit after this, I'd have to. I think I still have it up on my phone. I think I have the accurate time for when plant life should have started, or maybe I found that on. Hold on. I'm gonna quickly check. Yeah, so it was about like 470 million years ago for when on Earth. Since I'm going to assume similar situation for Earth for this planet. Yeah, about 470 million years ago is when plants moved on to land for Earth. So here, I'm still marine, but at 470, which let's move to that. Get an idea of what sort of the separation looks like. Here is when plants and also a group that that I feel that, well, it gives me the vibes of being generally like insects and arthropod kind of like creatures are going to invade land. So that actual animal is going to invade both of these large continents. But plant-wise, things are going to be a little different. So maybe you've already seen, and maybe in some of my own other Thrive survival strategies, I've talked about it. I'm having I actually have two main plant colors. I think I also mentioned a third, but I'm going to have two main plant colors, and the third one is going to be involved. So this upper continent, I want to have be with the green plants. So basically our plants that we have on Earth, like, but I want them to originate from very algae mat-like stuff, so they're going to be a bit different. So if you've seen Bibliodarian's Alien Biosphere series, I'm thinking they may end up looking a lot more like that. Basically, like the trees will have big trunks and leaves coming out the top. And in this lower continent, I want the yellow plants. They're going to look, obviously, going to just be yellow, but they're going to look more like how our plants are because they'll have already taken a bit of like a kelp-like shape. So have a basic stem already. So they're going to probably look more like trees and earth-like plants in fall when their leaves turn yellow. So like the trees there are going to have a trunk, but a lot more branching off throughout it. So it'll be a big kind of bush of leaves compared to the kind of flatter one that the green ones will have. And then the red plants are actually the algae that'll do a symbiosis with both of the kind of plants because of the red dwarf star that is also present in this system. So there's going to be a main phase yellow dwarf star like our own sun, and there's a small red dwarf that orbits around it. It shouldn't affect too much gravitationally and all that, but for my own sake, I am just keeping basically this system with this planet is going to be just identical to our own because I don't want to try to figure out the gravitational stuff because I'd have to get universe sandbox and do all that, and that would take a lot of time. Plus, I think I have to pay money for it as well, so I'm going to be cheap and just copy our own system for this. So obviously, this planet will also have a similar moon and whatnot, which would be good for the sapient species when they evolve. Yeah, so green plants here with the red algae, yellow plants here with the red algae. The polar regions, I think, are going to be a little interesting, specifically because down here we might see, I could see the yellow plants actually gaining more of an orange color where it mixes both its yellow pigmentation and the red algae more evenly and consistently. Whereas the green plants, they could, and also the thing is with the poles, so obviously on Earth, it's usually going to be about 6 months of sun, 6 months of darkness, but because of the red dwarf, it's not going to be a consistent darkness. And given that the red dwarf is going to be the one providing a lot of light, it'll incentivize having people to either have a mixed coloration, especially, or switching over more towards red during the night, during the long nights. So we could easily see with the yellow ones kind of becoming orangish or fallen red. The green ones might become just fallen red at that point because they don't have the really ability to really become a nice orange. The other ones will, so that'll be kind of a fun thing to do. Also quickly check another thing. Okay, so I'm going to move a bit more to about when I'm going to have our two larger terrestrial groups enter the land. Okay, so the quick Google search is between 390 and 360. So between this and gotta get to it. And here is when we're going to see our two terrestrial body plan tropes. So one of them will be the Hexaquill. The other one is going to be something that gives me a fish-like variety, and but actually comes from the same ancestor that is responsible for all the sort of small insect-like-esque creatures on this planet, which is going to be kind of a funny thing, I feel like, to have that as an evolutionary branch from that. Yeah, I think they're going to, so the Hexaquills I might have down here, I want them to struggle a little bit once the continents come together. I'll probably have to have an asteroid impact wipe out the other group, sadly, or at least hit the other group really hard. But I think that other group's gonna probably colonize this continent. Hexaquill's lineage is gonna probably get this one. That's my plan. I could switch it around for all I know. I may also take a look at the overall like land mass to see which one, because I want the sort of fish-esque one to have more land to work with and more. Also, I guess there's also the orogenies would come in more different biome types, so they're more adapted to a lot of different things. Whereas, even though there might be a lot of orogenies in different biomes, the less landmass would force fewer species on this continent. So it could, plus with their many legs, which is not as efficient, having fewer legs with the species up here make it easier for them to probably outcompete a lot of the Hexaquill-related descendants. But there is another body plan I am going to have invade a land. It's going to be in the ocean, it's going to be a sessile anemone-like thing, but it gives me a lot of plant vibes, and I want to do something interesting, so, and I maybe invade land once the supercontinent reforms, but they also might actually enter these ocean areas potentially, and then they get onto land from there. I don't know yet. So I haven't fully thought about how that's gonna go yet. Plus, I mean, that also requires making rivers and all that. May as well just continue moving it. But that's body plan is gonna sort of sit around and probably trap a lot of the insect-like creatures and arthropod-like creatures and whatnot, and probably also the smaller, larger animals that exist. And they're generally going to stay relatively small for the most part in their existence, occasionally moving when they need to, and being very camouflaged in with the plant life, but having like the multiple colors present. Obviously, we're about to have the supercontinent reform roughly soon. I'll pause when that happens. It's like right there. You can see, I actually had to leave these because there were still island arcs to form. I ignore the island arcs that would form after that because I do not care at this point. Yeah, so obviously, abiotic interchange would be happening a lot here. Probably also around this time is when that body plan I was just talking about would enter, but they're going to be generally smaller, generally live sessile kind of lifestyles, which we don't really see on Earth terrestrial creatures for the most part. They're going to camouflage with a lot of plants, so they're going to get a lot of crazy colors. But at least one group will eventually form very large tree-like appearances, because I just want to make a horror-like tree thing in this, because I think that would be really funny. And I'm going to just keep playing it, but, and just kind of let it play out for the rest of it. Of course, all this is a creature train here. Obviously, does kind of cover up these subduction ruins, which it is fine. Got this little island, which, funny enough, this reminds me of like Long Island when New York City's on, so that'd be kind of fun to have like a major city there. Although one thing I do want to say is that for this world, when the sapient species is present, let me just do this so I don't know what happens if I keep it going normally. This continent, around the time that the sapient species are expanding across it, going to all the different areas, creating civilization and whatnot, there's gonna be, this supercontinent is gonna slowly start rifting apart. Like, it'd probably happen like probably in the next the -1 million, so like slightly into the future maybe. But like we'll assume like they've already started moving again. Maybe this one finally has this rift form, and that actually goes over here, splitting this one in half along this area. Maybe this one breaks off. So like it's slowly starting to come apart again, but it's not going to be as important for us to really represent that at the moment. I'm also very grateful how this all turned out, and it looks so much more natural and not. But I am going to do this again, but taking a lot of this off so that we can see just the look of the actual raster. So also I'm gonna take this off. That's gonna make all those islands vanish when they do vanish. I'm gonna leave oceans on because of the sort of inner oceans. It's gonna be annoying with all the regular ocean crust it'll show as well. I mean, actually we're gonna turn. So you're gonna just see like where the technical contents are, including any place they have inner oceans. Yeah, this has taken me quite a while to do. I like to build ships actually in Minecraft. In my forever world I have there. Which I was working on Bismarck, which is the most recent one I was working on that, which I haven't finished yet. And I haven't even worked on it for over a month now because I've been actually focusing on this, because I wanted to get this done before the next live stream, which I was very close with, in all honesty, because just earlier this week, we had it set up, and I just kind of panicked because I hadn't finished actually from that last time set from 500 million years to 0, and I kind of panicked because I wanted to get it done in time for it. So I'm very, very happy I managed to do it in time, because this has been such I will be honest, it has been fun, also kind of insanity inducing at the same time for me slightly, but I am still very happy to have actually done this, because I've had a lot more fun doing it and all that, and I'll still be able to work with it more later when I get to work on stuff. Yeah, it's gonna be just a really fun thing to be able to have worked on. I'm really glad, but I do hope to actually show off some of my other stuff as well. I do want to show off my Minecraft world, maybe even show how I handle actually building the ships in it, because to be clear, I'm not making ships. Also, just remember there is an ocean right there. I don't actually make them from scratch. I use other people's builds, so I can also kind of go into about how I sort of do that, which is a slightly painful, long process to do, but it's worked for three of them so far. I've built the Enterprise, USS Enterprise, CV6. I've built the USS Sims, and I've also done the Arizona Memorial so far in it. And I'm working on Bismarck at the moment. I plan on doing the HMS Hood, along with the Yamato as well. I mean, those are the ones I've considered doing on top of it so far. Although I do have some additional things I do want to work on. What? That was weird. Hold on. What just happened there? I'm actually gonna. Because that was an island. What was that? Did those islands. What? That is weird. I'm gonna have to figure that out actually. Let's just finish this up, and then I'll deal with that after recording. I only just noticed that. It looks like I copied that and somehow got attached to that when I wanted just attached here. That's probably what happened. It's around. Okay, yeah. Well, I'll just actually this play through without any more commentary at this point. All right. Uh, Thanks for spending the time and watching this, and I hope you have a good day.